Hello, everyone. Welcome back to FFG Live. My name is Evan Johnson, and I'm joined here today by developer Tony Franchi. How are you doing
Hi.
today?
Doing good, doing good. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. So we are here to talk about, as we kind of teased in our article where we laid out the stream schedule for this month, we're talking about a brand new expansion for Civilization: A New Dawn, which is a board game, of course, based on Sid Meier's Civilization, that came out 2 years ago, was it now?
I believe it was 2 years, yep.
Yep. So Civilization, awesome little game, and we're here now with like the first big expansion for it. What is this expansion? What do people have to look forward to? What's it called?
So the expansion is called Terra Incognita, and you can look forward to a lot of stuff. It's a box jam-packed with new additions. So on top of new wonders, new city-states, new tiles, new leaders, a fifth player, you're going to be looking at some new mechanisms. We have districts, which are brand new. We have governments involved. We have new rules for exploring. We have army pieces that are going to be marching around the map and destroying your opponents.
Yeah, that's awesome. So there's like a ton of new stuff, as we mentioned, and we'll get into a lot of it as we get further on in this stream. But do you have a kind of a personal favorite among the new things added in Terra Incognita?
I would have to say that the districts are my favorite part. They create a little puzzle that you have to solve of where's the best place to put your districts, because each player has only one district of each types, and there are 5 types of districts. And all of those districts have some element of position requirement for them. So you want to make sure you're finding the best spot to put down your district, but you don't want to wait too long, because the longer you wait, the fewer turns you're going to have to benefit from your district.
For sure. So what was the initial inspiration for this design? You know, the game has been around for 2 years. There hasn't been an expansion yet. What kind of started the wheels turning on this?
So when I learned that I would be working on an expansion for this game, the first thing I did is I sat down and brainstormed as many ideas as I could based on largely on the Civilization video game series, and particularly Civilization 6, and tried to come up with all the different mechanisms that game has that weren't yet reflected in Civilization: A New Dawn. And I came up with a whole bunch of them, and not all of them made it into the game. So I had to narrow down my focus. The 2 areas that I wanted to focus on were exploration and specialization. So in the game, you're going to be exploring the world. You're going to be growing the map as you play instead of having the whole world laid out in front of you at setup. And additionally, you're going to be able to specialize your civilization more so that you can take a different route than your opponents. In base game Civilization: A New Dawn, you're really encouraged to use every card in your focus row, because they move up the focus row into that top slot. You really want to move that card down so that you can be more efficient with your other card uses. With Terra Incognita, you get to do a little bit more of specialization. You can focus on a specific type of focus card. Each leader has their own unique focus card that goes along with them, and so you'll probably want to use that one as much as you can.
Yeah, that's super cool. So this we mentioned, obviously from just listing out these mechanics, like this is a pretty big expansion, right? It's a $40 box. The base game's like $50, so that kind of gives you a sense of like the scale of how much this adds to the game and how much stuff there's in it. Did you kind of set out to knowing you wanted to make an expansion this big with this many new ideas, or did it kind of grow organically during that development process?
Yeah, as I said, I actually started out with more ideas than we really could have feasibly put into one expansion, and so I had to do the paring down from there, and that's where I focused on the ideas of exploration and specialization.
For sure. So exploration, one of the biggest new additions of this game, of course, as you've been mentioning. Can you tell us a little bit more about how it works and how it changes the base experience of the game?
Yeah, definitely. So at the start of the game, unlike in the base game, you're not building the full map as at the start. Instead, you're starting with just your core tiles, which is very similar to the core tile setup for the base game. However, each player is then going to place their capital tile adjacent to those core tiles. So you're all going to be very close into each other. But from there, you can go exploring the area around your capital by using your caravans and your new army figures. By having them explore the surrounding area, you'll draw a tile from a map, a tile deck, and then you get to choose where to put that so that it touches both your capital tile and the space where your exploring piece is.
And so this expansion also adds then a number of new map tiles for
It
players
does.
too.
Yep.
Is there
Yep.
something like unique about these map tiles, or something that sets them apart thematically from the base game?
Not really. I think they're really more of the same. We have one new capital tile to
cool.
accommodate the fifth player, two new tiles that feature city-states, and the city-states have abilities that are focused more on the new mechanisms that are brought to the game in Terra Incognita. And we have two map tiles that have new natural wonders.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. That's awesome. So Civilization, of course, being this, well-established video game that has had, multiple iterations over the years, and has been translated into board games a couple of times now, including with Civilization: A New Dawn most recently. How do you approach kind of taking these mechanics from the video game? You mentioned that you were looking at the video game for inspiration, like what has not yet been done in Civilization: A New Dawn. How do you take mechanics from, a fundamentally different type of game and bring those into the board game experience?
It's quite a challenge because obviously you can't lean on the computer to do all the number crunching, all the math, all the rules enforcement that you have to, as players, you have to be comfortable doing yourselves. So really, what I try to do with each new mechanism is try to boil it down to its essence. What is the core thing? What is the feeling that I get from doing this in Civilization, the video game, and how can I translate that into the board game?
Perfect. So, I'm sorry. So we also mentioned it lets you play with 5 players. And how does that change that basic experience of the game?
So one of the things that I really love about Civilization: A New Dawn is that turns are very quick. Most of the time, it's by the time that you've finished deciding what you're going to do on your next turn, it's already back around to you. And so adding a 5th player, we felt, didn't add all that much extra time to the play time. And what it does add to the game is a lot more interactivity. You've got now more potential allies, more potential enemies out there on the board, and you're all scrabbling in a tight space in order to build the most powerful and most successful civilization.
Yeah, absolutely. So in addition to increasing the number of players overall, Terra Incognita also more than doubles the number of leaders in the game. And there's a new Civilization-specific focus card for each leader, kind of as we mentioned. Do you have a particular favorite among these new leaders and their focus cards that we can show off for everyone?
Sure. So as I mentioned, my favorite mechanism in the expansion is the districts, and probably the person who gets the most use out of their districts is Amanitore of Nubia.
Yeah.
Her ability, Kandake of Meroe, allows her to use a district every time she resolves her growth card. So the growth card is a new class of focus cards added in the expansion. They are how you build your districts. And so every time that Amanitore builds a new district, she immediately gets to use a district, perhaps the one she built or one that she had built previously. So getting those extra uses out of the districts is super powerful for her.
For sure. And we'll throw the Nubia sheet up on the screen for you guys to see, followed by the irrigation focus card. So this irrigation is a new type of focus card, right?
Yes.
The focus bar has to adjust as well to support that, correct?
Yeah. So in the box, you're going to get new focus bars that have 6 spots on them instead of 5. We've added an additional 1 slot to the left of the focus bar. So there's now 2 number 1s, 1 number 2, 1 number 3, 1 4, and 1 5.
Of course.
And that extra slot is for the growth card. And so the growth card, in addition to building districts, also inherits some of the functionality from the military card, which has been redone for the expansion because we needed to make new military cards that will will tell you how that you can use your armies. So what the growth card adopted from the old military cards is the ability to reinforce your control tokens, so building up your defenses.
For sure. So there was another leader that you wanted to talk about as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of military, I also wanted to mention Shaka of the Zulu.
Sure. So the Zulu sheet will be going up on the screen now.
Shaka was a bit of a challenge in development. I went through a lot of different ideas trying to come up with an ability that I liked for him. I remember an early version where he actually captures enemy cities and keeps them on his sheet, which was a lot of fun, but it created a lot of rules overhead that really I didn't feel bared the weight of the ability. It also turned out to be quite overpowered, and so what I finally settled on, which is an ability that I feel is very simple but very fitting for Shaka, is the fact that every time he wins a battle as an attacker, he gets a trade token, and he gets an additional one if he's attacking a city or city-state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And then you mentioned that they each have a leader-specific focus card. So we'll throw Scorched Earth up on the screen now, which is Shaka's focus card. So I'll just read that out for you. So this is it's a military focus card. So this would replace your standard military focus card, right?
With each of the unique civilization cards, it's actually an additional option that you have. So every time you upgrade, you have the option of taking your civilization card or any of the other cards at that level. They've all been designed so that in probably 80% of cases, you're going to choose your civilizations one, but there may be some corner cases where you might choose the original one, and we can talk about that once we get into Scorched Earth a bit more.
For sure. Yeah, so let's talk about how the combat mechanic has been redefined with the armies in this expansion. What went into making this change, and how is it different from the original?
So the primary difference with this change is that instead of counting spaces from friendly spaces in order to declare attacks, you now have to move your army into a space that you want to attack. This, to me, creates a more tactical military element of the game. It's easier to see your enemies coming because you can see their armies on your doorstep, and it makes it restricts some of your options on the attack, which I felt that in the base game it was a little too easy to go out and attack your opponents. Now they have a better chance of seeing it coming, and you can even use your armies in a defensive capacity by sitting them in a space, and they will provide a bonus to your defense while they're in that space.
Excellent. So finally, let's talk about the districts and the systems of government. So these are two more systems that are being introduced in the game, and they each can be very impactful for how the game is played. So how do these work?
So I've talked a lot about districts so far, but kind of in a nutshell, the way they work is once you've built them, each one has a special district ability. And we include a new event dial in the game that has 2 district event spots on it. So whenever the dial gets to one of those spaces, everybody at the table resolves their district abilities at the same time. Each district is associated with one of your focus cards, and for the most part, they give you bonuses that are related to those focus cards. So for instance, the military district is called the encampment. What it does whenever you get to a district space is it lets you destroy a barbarian or an enemy army within 2 spaces of that encampment, and also lets you reinforce one of your spaces. So you're both getting that free reinforcement of a token and also defending yourself from barbarian and other player invasions.
For sure. So you have to build these districts around your city, but then you're also you can't necessarily trigger them all whenever you want. You have to be looking ahead at this event dial.
Exactly. Yeah.
To figure it out.
And another example I'll toss out is the campus. So the campus is the science district, and what it wants to do is it wants to be adjacent to mountains and natural wonders. So if you control mountains and natural wonders around it, it's going to give you a bonus to your science card. So every time you tech up, you're going to tech up more efficiently. So that's an element that you definitely want to be thinking about as you're exploring with your armies is how can I arrange this tile to get the best district spot that I can out of it?
Right. That's interesting. And then even I assume based on your capital city tile that you take, you can have cities and setups that are more suited for one type of district or another.
Definitely. You really have to adjust to the draw that you get in terms of your own capital tile and the tiles that you explore over the course of the game.
That's so cool. So then systems of government. What is that all about?
So governments are a way that let you specialize your civilization, like I was mentioning before. So with an extended focus bar, it's going to take longer, 6 turns instead of 5, to get that card that you just used back to the top spot. Governments are a way of doing that more quickly. So also on the event dial is a government space, and whenever the dial reaches that space, you can choose to adopt a form of government by placing the government token on your focus card of the matching type. The government token then lets you resolve the card that it's on as if it's further up in your focus row, so you have fewer turns to wait before that card gets back to what is essentially the top of the order.
For sure. So, for instance, if I have chosen like democracy, that would let me take a certain type of focus card. I think it's science, and resolve it as if it were higher on the focus card than it actually is. I assume you cannot go past the top of the focus
That's
bar.
correct. You max out on the 5th slot.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. That's so cool. What are you most excited for with Terra Incognita now that people are getting to hear about it for the first time?
I'm just excited to get this into everybody's hands and see what everybody thinks of all the new systems and all the new leaders.
Yeah.
I want to hear who everybody loves as their favorite leader, which districts everybody thinks are the best ones, and just I'm excited to get as much feedback as I can because I'm been waiting for this a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is a huge new expansion, and it's super exciting. We'll have an article with more information going up on the website later this week, hopefully, or possibly next week as soon as we're able to post it. But thank you, everyone, so much for watching as we've just kind of scratched the surface here of what is coming with Terra Incognita, which is this first brand new expansion for Civilization, A New Dawn. And everyone stay safe. We'll catch you next time.